guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts, and this is Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, April 9th, 2019. I did not work on any baby quilts or any large projects at all last week. I spent most of my time, I took like a me week. I sat back and I did some slow stitching. I kind of cleared my mind and just relaxed. But I still crafted because that's what I do and that's my stress reliever and that's what makes me happy. So I did want to work on the hand-stitched, hand-sewn, hand-pieced quilt along that I've been doing. I've been working on my sashing and getting all my rows together. I finished all my blocks. I got them all sewn together. So I have row 1 with my little, we started with 1.5 inch sashing. And then I got a second row all done. So as you can see, I still need to do my long sashing in between. And then my third one. And this is my last one. So if we can't get them all in the picture here, but this is going to be the basic idea with the white sashing. Once again, 1.5 inches, finishing at 1 inch in between. And I will probably do a wider border. I've cut my sashing long strips for in between. I'm probably going to have to piece these, I believe. Yeah, they're not quite long enough, so I will. It's going to be a little weird to hand piece the strips together to make them longer because we're not using any, well, I'm not using any sewing by machine on here. Some people, just to get it finished after they did all the blocks, decided to go ahead and use their sewing machine to put all the sashing together and put their rows together and everything. But I'm going to stick to the true spirit of it. I think the only place that I'm going to be doing any type of machine sewing is when I put the binding on, because I don't know if I can, to get the binding on, to hand sew it on, because when you normally do it, you go down the side and you go through all the layers, the front, the batting, and the backing. I'm not sure if I can do that by hand. I don't know if in the olden days, if maybe they just pinned it on and then they hand stitched both the top and back of the front and back of the quilt with their binding. You think that might have been a way to do it? Like, kind of like with bias binding all the way around. That might be a way they did it. But I've been thinking for my binding that I might go ahead and use all these different colors here because I still have some scraps left. So just make a whole scrappy binding all the way around it. Make it a little bit wider so that it shows up nicely on the front of the quilt. That's my plan so far. We'll see how much scraps I have left over and how far I get. So this was really the only quilting and sewing that I did this week. I worked on a few of my knitting projects and stuff, but this was my main thing. It takes a lot of time and many, many hours, even though now going through, when I'm stitching the sashing on, it's quick. You're just going straight along. You don't have too many seams to worry about. And for those that asked, yes, see, I drew my 1/4 inch seam line. I've been stitching just a little above the line so that I have more of a narrow 1/4 inch, so that I make sure that everything's going to work out. Sometimes when I'm following in the line, I might dip down a little bit, so it's nice to go above it. So if I kind of go in a little bit and I'm not perfectly straight, then it'll go ahead and take care of it. I don't know if you could see like right here, I dipped down, but I was on the line, but then I went below the line. So that's going to change up your seam allowance a little bit. So that was in one of the earlier times. So I just decided I'm just going to go ahead and stitch above the line. As you can see there, it's not straight. None of my lines are perfectly straight because I'm not staying on a line. None of my stitches are even. A lot of times you're going to see some back stitching in there, so it changes the way it looks a little bit. That's why you see like these double stitches. That's because when you stop and pull your needle through, they suggest that you do a back stitch that secures it, so if anything happens with the seam, it'll stop there. So they're not perfect, but when you flip them over, it looks really good from the front. The only part that I'm noticing that I might need to do a little bit of fixing on is somehow my stitches, whoop, there they go. Somehow my stitches pop through here. So when I was stitching something somewhere, I've got some of them popping through on the front. I might just need to tighten this up a little bit just to make that seam a little bit tighter so there's not that much of a problem there. Or I might just leave it because that's the way that this quilt is working. And this is an example of how I learned how to hand stitch a block and hand stitch a wall hanging. But I've been enjoying it. And I wanted to also show, I had a couple questions about the needles I'm using. These are from Clover. Let me open it so I can get the glare off. They are black gold needles. I've got the applique sharps, size 9, 10, and 12. Can you see how teeny tiny the eyes are on that? This has been a bit of a struggle to get these threaded. There's been many times that I've had to use those little needle threaders to get it through. And these are extremely sharp. If I were to be stitching through and hit it on my nail, the needle actually goes into my nail. If I hit it this way, you can actually see the grooves where I've dug into my thumbnail while stitching. So these work really well. I tried a variety of different needles, and I find that having these very extremely sharp ones worked really good for this project. I'm not sure I would use them for a lot of things, but for hand stitching these blocks, it's been really good. I might try them for the binding, but I think they might just be a little bit too sharp to hand stitch the binding down. So apparently they're black gold because the gold is up in the eye, and this rest of the needle is treated with some type of black coating, and that helps prevent rusting, which is really good. But this is what I got. These were recommended by one of the ladies that is hosting this quilt along. And other than this, the only thing I really worked on this week is I went out to the backyard and I dug up a new flower bed. It's getting close to time where we're gonna have to start. Well, I'm gonna have to start mowing the grass on a regular basis. And our neighbor has a chain link fence on one side and a wooden fence on the other. And on the chain link side is where I went ahead and dug up for a new flower bed. I've already planted some bulbs in there and some flower seeds for marigolds and impatiens and a couple of other things that I just happen to have in the house that worked really well recently. But when I'm mowing, the mower doesn't get quite all the way up against the fence. So after you're done, you definitely have to go through with a weed eater, or you have to go through by hand and pull out all the extra scraggly weeds and stuff up against the fence. So I thought to avoid that, I'll just go ahead and put a flower bed in there. I'll have pretty flowers to look at, and I won't have to mow right up against that fence. So I need to decide what I'm going to do on the wooden side. I don't really need another flower bed all the way over there, and that side tends to flood a little, so it wouldn't be good for a vegetable garden or anything like that. So I don't know, maybe I'll just dig out a small section, a narrow section, or put some pavers down, or put some rocks over there or something. I don't know. I'll figure that out later. But the chain link fence was the worst part, because even the neighbor's stuff, she has a bunch of things up to make her yard private, so she has a lot of plants that grow up. Well, they grow through the chain link fence. So then they come in and come into my yard, so all of her like weeds and stuff will come over to my side, so that makes it a little bit harder. So I went through, I just dug that all up this week, and it was very relaxing to do on Saturday morning. The weather was nice and cool. So for this week coming up, I definitely need to get back to my baby quilts. I want to have this settled and finished. I want to at least get it done so that I can post it in the link. So for all the finished quilt tops, I don't need to have it quilted and bound and everything to join the link party, but I want to at least get this top done, and that's the basics that you have to have. You have to have at least the top done with 5 unique blocks. When this actually makes it to being a quilt and I get it, all the batting and everything, all the layers put together and basted, I will definitely be hand quilting this. There's a lot of fun opportunity for just a little relaxing quilting, going around and following all the flying geese or something like that. Like in this block, it'll be fun just to stitch on the inside of all these geeses. And that actually is going to, well, surprisingly, it goes pretty quickly. The hand quilting goes much quicker for me than the hand sewing. It took me a little bit to find that rhythm of how to hold your hand. I like to hold this hand steady, and I take the fabric and I just kind of go like this, and then I can pull the needle through. So it took me, I think it took me about 3 blocks to find my rhythm to get that. But that's it for me this week. I hope you guys are having an amazing week, and hope everyone's spending a little bit of time in their crafty room working on something they love. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.